as our moderators will be keeping an eye out for any inappropriate comments. Also, check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Tonight, we've got an exciting guest for you. Dr. Andrea Duhon is a native of Bogota, Colombia. She's a 2005 graduate of North Carolina State University, where she obtained a BS in degrees in mathematics and mathematics education. While at NCSU, Dr. Duhon co-founded the first organizations geared towards Latinx students, such as Mi Familia. She earned master's degrees in math education and philosophy from New York University and a doctorate in mathematics education from Columbia. Please welcome Dr. Duhon.
I'll be more than happy to answer those as we're talking. So definitely ask me anything that you're wondering in terms of coding, in terms of my life. As stated, I am a graduate of North Carolina State University. I graduated in 2005 with a degree in mathematics and math education. So I am passionate about math, about teaching math, and about letting you guys know how I got to where I am today. So my presentation today is called Latinx in STEM. I am a proud Latina that was born in Colombia. And I'm going to kind of give you an overview of what my life was like from the beginning, right? And so I was born in a big family. So early years on, I was raised in Colombia. There in that picture, you see my mom, my dad, my siblings, and of course to the right, you see my grandmother. So from early ages, family was everything, right? I was raised in just to have core family values and to always give back and stay connected to my community. I always say that I have a little bit of Venezuelan, even though I was born in Colombia, because my grandfather was a Marine and he moved to Venezuela before I was born. And so my cultural background really is a mixture of the two. In fact, some of the traditions that my family had, I always thought were Venezuelan or thought they were Colombian, but really was a mixture of both worlds, right? And so as I was growing up, being a part of that world was everything to me. And at 9 years old, my mom decided that Colombia was no longer safe and that we needed something new, that we needed a better opportunity for us. And so she grabbed everything that we knew and moved us to the United States. And we landed ourselves in Miami. And Miami is known to be, you know, beaches and people and culture. But for me, it was kind of a little bit of a downfall because I came from a place that I knew everything, a place where everything was familiar, a place where I spoke the language, I understood the culture, I understood the people. And suddenly I was brought to a location where, although it was very cultural, it wasn't about what I knew. And I had to begin to navigate and to try to understand a new language, a new culture, a new people, and try to figure out who was I, right? What were my interests? What was I gonna do? And I really didn't know how to do that. So in my high school, as I was getting older, I started to try to figure out what were my interests, right? What could I be good at? And the one thing I remembered is when I came to the United States, I didn't speak anything, but I understood math. I understood how to do well in math. In fact, I took the SATs, I remember in the 5th grade, and I scored 99 percentile in mathematics and 1 percentile in English. And I was really, my heart was demolished for that 1 percentile, but in some way, it literally served as a catalyst for me to be able to want to inquire about mathematics, to really try to understand why I was able to still connect to the mathematics across languages, across academia, across worlds, really. And so I was able to get some opportunities that really gave me a great pathway to be able to explore mathematics in a different way. So in the 6th grade, I was exposed to a program called Duke Tip. And Duke University offers this program where you get to go and explore different classes and different colleges through their program. And I took an interest on it. Now, at this time, because we were new to the country, because my mom had pretty much given everything up to come here, we really didn't have the finances to be able to participate in the summer program. But there were people who were willing to give back, people who were interested in seeing my potential and who believed in what I can do, who decided to provide financial support for me to participate in these programs. And I am so thankful for them and for their ability to give back to programs like Duke Tip, because it really served as a way for me to explore a passion I wasn't really sure I had at that time. And so through Duke Tip program, I traveled to different universities. I took the opportunity to visit Duke, Kansas University, Texas A&M, Indiana University, and at every site and every summer between 6th grade and 12th grade, I got an opportunity to explore a different type of math. So one of the classes that really stood out to me that has kind of maintained in my life was cryptography. It was a number theory class where we really explore how numbers work with each other, what the systems were like, and then how we can code and decode certain things. So it's important that, you know, when you get these opportunities in your young years, in middle school and high school, that you allow yourself to go through those doors, because sometimes that door being open is exactly what's going to be the stepping tool for you to pursue a career and for you to pursue your passion. And so this is where it all started for me. It started in a summer, 3 weeks, exploring things that I had no idea I could even understand at such a young age. And so it was really nice and really exciting to be able to go beyond the normal math that I was seeing at school and really get to see where math went at an advanced level. And coding brought that for me. And so this ignited my passion for college, ignited myself to believe that I had an opportunity that I can go to a school at a state and to really look forward to exploring this mathematics career. And so it was time to go to college, and I ended up going to North Carolina State University. And the interesting part about this is that I was faced with a really great challenge about identifying and deciding who I was. All of a sudden, the main question that I got asked being on campus was, what are you? And this question didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand what it meant to say, what am I? I'm a female, I'm a mathematician, I'm an ambitious woman. Like, there was so many definitions to that. But in the context of college, it meant they didn't understand my culture. They didn't understand who I was as a Latina. They didn't understand what that encompassed and what that was about. And that was very difficult when I was coming to college, because in Miami, it seemed like it was already defined for me. I didn't really have to vent for myself or define my culture and how it gave me part of my identity. At that time in 2001, there were no resources for Latinx students at NC State. And so we had a cohort of students who really had to work to pave the way and to create opportunities that didn't exist. So I leaned a lot on the African American community. I was able to find mentors in that community who were willing to open themselves up and allow me to explore my identity through their lens. And it was exciting to see that, because I needed someone to be there. In fact, when I went to school, I was dropped off at the airport with a bag packed, not a lot of money in my pocket, and I left by myself, because at that time, my mom could not afford to come with me. So I wasn't a traditional student whose parents helped her decorate their dorm room or walked her all the way up and cried as they were leaving because I was so ready for them to go. I was at the airport when I shed those tears. But it was at that moment that I realized that every opportunity that was about to come my way was an opportunity that I needed to seize and an opportunity that I needed to take advantage of. So even though it was hurtful to have to say goodbye to my parents in Miami and fly by myself to school, I knew that it was time for me to do that so that I can grow further than I had already. And so at North Carolina State University, having the African American community really kind of give me that home feel was very important. Now, during this time, there was a lot of things in our world that were going on that were very difficult. One of which was a staple, unfortunate incident that happened in 2001. September 11 happened my freshman year, and I watched how the planes hit the Twin Towers while sitting in my dorm room right before a calculus class. And so if you can imagine, I was petrified. Had just got into college. I was there by myself. My parents were far away. I didn't understand what college was about. My identity was in question. So suddenly I felt like I was in a culture that was at odds, and I didn't really know how to react to that. And so what needed to happen was to find a home, to find a place where I could feel me. And because there weren't any at that time, what we had to do was create things that were unknown. And so I was blessed to be a part of the foundation of a lot of organizations that gear towards Latinx students. So Mi Familia, which is one of the organizations who is still there today at NC State, was created as a way to provide a home to students who didn't feel like they belonged at a university. Then La Raza de Mil Colores was born, intentionally named to say that our race is of 1,000 colors. And it was a way for us to express ourselves through dance and music, something that was so identifiable to our culture. And then finally, I was able to become a part of a sorority called Lambda Pi Chi that really helped me to understand the meaning of sisterhood and allowed me to be able to really feel supported and create a village of support. And so as I'm navigating through college, all of these pieces were essential because during 2001, so many things were uncertain. So many people were uncertain of what was happening in our world that a 17-year-old college freshman who came thousands of miles to go to school by herself didn't really know how to navigate that system. So I was very thankful and very blessed that I was able to create a community, that I had mentors like Dr. Wandra Hill, who were willing to see my potential and who were able to push me and say to me, you can do this. No matter what, you can do this. And one of the things I remember the most about Dr. Hill is her belief in me, her unquestionable belief that I can do anything I set my mind to. And I remember that when I met her, she said to me, you are going to be Phi Beta Kappa. And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what organizations were for Greek honor societies or what Phi Beta Kappa was. I wasn't even sure what it meant for her. But what she did was install in me the belief that I could do anything that I was willing to work hard for and willing to put effort towards. And in fact, 4 years later, I was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa, which is the highest honor society that you can have at NC State. I was the first Latina in what was then PAMS, now the College of Science. And so what this showed me was that when you have people who surround you, who are willing to support you, and when you create a village, you can do things that you never thought you could do. See, I never got a 4.0 in high school. I never got a 4.0 all through elementary, middle school, or high school. But in college, I had a 4.0. And that 4.0 allowed me to be able to push myself beyond the limits that I thought that I can have. Now, even though things seemed to be on the uprising and I was able to achieve academically, I knew that college was going to come to an end. And when it came to an end, or when it was getting close to come to an end, I was faced with this question of what now? Do I go back home? Do I stay at NC State? What is the next step? And to be honest, I didn't know. I knew it was time to go, but there were no post-graduation plans. I had a recommendation that I had sought from a professor who I had very dear to my heart. And then I got a refusal of that recommendation because he didn't believe the program I was applying for was something that I should be applying for. And Then a program I thought I was meant for, Teach for America, that everything sort of aligned to my career path, gave me a rejection letter. And they said, no, not for us. And so all of a sudden, all these accomplishments, all this groundbreaking foundation, all of the Phi Beta Kappa or leader of the pack, or all of the awards and the blows and whistles that I had gotten for the last 4 years seemed like they were going nowhere, because at the end of the day, I had no post-graduation plans. And so it was scary. It was a scary time. And I didn't know really what to do. But I do believe that things align in a way that they need to. And I believe that I needed to feel that rejection. I needed to feel that uncertainty, because life is that way. There are going to be many times in our lives when we don't know what's next, when we don't know what's going to come next. And so in order for us to truly be able to get past those moments, we have to experience those moments, right? We have to be in those doubting moments to be able to get across them. And so I remember going into the office in the math department one day, and the great question being asked, what are you going to do after graduation? Honestly, a question I hated to answer, because I was supposed to have it all together. I was supposed to have the plans, and I did not have them. And so I chose to just humble myself and say, I don't know. Everything inside of me said, make something up. Say you have something aligned. But I chose to say, I don't know. And what happened from that, I don't know, was a great opportunity landed on me. The secretary from the department said, there's this great fellowship that I think you fit perfectly. It was called the Newton Fellowship through the Math for America program. And it was a program designed for mathematicians who had a passion for education. People who knew math, wanted to know more math, and were so passionate about it that they wanted to transfer that passion to younger generations to come. And I had 2 weeks to apply, a lot of tests to take, and 3 interviews to go through to get to the final round. But I was blessed enough to get that fellowship and to be able to pursue a master's degree at a great institution at New York University. And so this answered the question of what's next. And instead of going back home, I packed my bags, got in a car, and I drove 8 hours back and forth to get all my stuff to New York University. And so this started my career path, right? Here was an opportunity to go to grad school, an opportunity to catapult my career, to start as a high school teacher, but I still wasn't quite sure which direction I wanted the mathematics to go. And so I had a few years of different things that were going on that kind of shaped who I was in the mathematics field. So I chose to continue my PhD at Columbia University. I decided to start my career in education by being a high school teacher in the South Bronx. I tried an accounting, being in an accounting firm in New York, in an environment where it was more corporate. And all of these experiences helped me to see math in a slightly different way, right? And investigate how I really wanted to understand mathematics, how I wanted to apply mathematics, and how I wanted to teach mathematics, right? Then I got an opportunity to work as an at-risk student director. And that allowed me to see the type of student that I just had a heart for, right? And so as I'm thinking about my career, I wanted to make sure that I incorporated the things that I was passionate about. So I was passionate about math because I loved mathematics. I love the thinking process. I love getting stuck in a problem and having to actively work on it and actively pursue figuring out an answer. I like the ambiguity of where it came from and why it's true and when isn't it not true, right? I loved working with students. I had a passion for students who came from unconventional situations, students who maybe didn't have opportunities, didn't have the financial freedom that they needed to pursue some of the opportunities. And I wanted to help that population because I was that population, because my story was unconventional, because what I thought was the norm wasn't the norm. And so that being an at-risk student director gave me an opportunity to really dig into how these students thought. And so as time continued, I ended up as a college professor at Marshall University. And in that sort of facet, I've been able to tap into all of the things that I'm passionate about and connect all of the pieces, still through mathematics, but also through mentorship and also through my personal passions. Simultaneously to that, I got a great opportunity to work with a company called Enlight.Energy, which does solar systems and creates renewable energy. And the thing I liked the most about this company was really their ethical background and their willingness to really step from the norm and make sure that they were providing things that were good for the people, right? So it wasn't as a business, it wasn't all about the money, it was really about the people who they worked with. And so I was able to utilize my mathematics knowledge to help them create systems to make the company run smoothly, right? And so I saw how math was used in the accounting world. I saw how math was used in the classroom. I saw how math was able to intertwine throughout. And I knew I wanted to do more than just a job, right? More than just teaching mathematics or more than just accounting for something else. And so I decided to incorporate it not only in my career, but in my philanthropic life. And so I love to give back. I love to work with people. I love for them to understand my passion and create passions of their own. And one of the reasons that that's the case is because, again, I am where I am because someone was willing to help, because someone saw potential, because someone believed in what I can do or what I can be more than I did. They saw something in me I didn't even see in myself. And so philanthropy gives me an opportunity to connect that. And through that, my husband and I have a foundation called Stand Tall Foundation, and we've created programs that align those things that are important to us. One particular program, which I'll highlight, is a step system through the art of stepping, which is called, it essentially codes mathematics to be able to connect your body, the beats that you're making, and math, right? And so the exciting thing about that is that you get to use your brain, you get to use math, and you get to do something that you enjoy. So I've always been passionate about moving my body. I was a cheerleader and a dancer and then a stepper when I was in college. And so because I had such a passion for the arts, connecting it to something that I do every day, like math, was really exciting. And so I run a camp during the summers called Triple Threat, where we teach dance, step, and cheer through this system. And we go into communities that are underserved and teach them about all of these arts. The purpose of the program is really to expose them to things they wouldn't be. It is free of charge. And then we want them to actively use their brain and actively see connections between what they love to do, something like the arts, and what happens in the STEM field. Right. And so it's a great opportunity to build those bridges and to really connect them. So I highly encourage you in anything that you do to give back, to remember where you come from. I often look back to that little girl in her grandmother's arms and think, how did I get here? There's many cases and many people that I know that were alongside me along the way and made different decisions or didn't have the right people surrounding them. They didn't have someone to believe in them like I did, and they're not in the same places that I'm blessed to be in. So remember that to whom much is given, much is required. So you have to push yourself to not only remember where you came from, but to give back to where you came from. And as you're going through this journey of finding your passion, remember there are people who are trying to find theirs too. So find yours and then look back, reach back, grab that next generation and help them to get exactly where you are. And regardless of how misunderstood you are or how somebody ignores you, remember that you matter and stand up for what you believe. Be willing to be different. Be willing to be the only one to do it. If it hasn't been done, then that's a great opportunity for you to be the first one to do it. So don't be afraid. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Don't give up. A great mathematician knows that when you can't get to an answer, you analyze, you adjust, you repeat. And when you fail, you try again. Because math is all about learning. Math is all about exploring, and math is all about decoding. right? Decoding life and decoding everything that surrounds you. So remember that success rarely looks one way. There are many, many paths. I can sit here for hours and tell you of different instances where I felt like my career path was going in a different way, instances where I failed, instances where I wanted to give up, but it made it to where I am right now. And so the route to success is kind of a very curvy road with a lot of turns. And failure is inevitably your best teacher. Through failing, you learn. If everything was easy, then there would be no learning. You would just be exercising something you know. So failure is truly a part of the process. And last but not least, always think with your heart and think about your why. Why do you want to be what you want to be? Why do you want to be a mathematician? Why do you want to be a scientist? Why do you want to go to college? For me, I do everything that I do because of my family. And this picture right here represents my why. My 5 kids and my husband, who constantly remind me of why I want to continue to pursue excellence. So thank you so much for joining me. Now we're going to have a small pause, and then we get to do some really fun decoding stuff and get into the math.
Hey everyone, for this activity on cryptography, you will need either the printed document sent to you earlier today or a blank sheet of paper if you don't have that on hand. Dr. Duhon will explain the instructions for each of the problems, so be sure to follow along closely.
All right, so we are into the fun stuff. I have been waiting to actually show you how this coding process works. We talked a little bit about life, and now we're going to get into the math. And so we're going to go through some of the basic knowledge stuff, and then we're going to get to do some decoding ourselves. So if you haven't gotten your piece of paper and your pencil, always a pencil for math so you can erase, make sure that you go get it now, okay? And as we're going through this, comment below, make sure you ask your questions, and then we can be sure to answer them as we're going through the activity. So what is cryptography? What is cryptology? Essentially, they're one and the same, right? 2 versions of the same breed. It's the study of making or breaking codes. So you get to design something through mathematics that is disguised as something else so that you can pass on a message and only the people who you want to know can actually know, right? It's absolutely related to number theory. So you look at the way that numbers behave and their relationship to each other. And then it essentially at the core works on a mod system. And we'll talk about exactly what that is. There are many different types of ciphers, and we can be here all day learning about all of these different types. So if you're interested in coding, please, 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 Google is a great place to go where you can learn about all of these ciphers. You have Caesar ciphers, keyword ciphers, letter frequency, substitution, RSA, so on and so forth. You have some that are very simple. And then of course, with technology, we have had coding systems that have gotten very complex. Okay, so if you're interested in coding, there is definitely a step 1 to take, but then you can follow on to see. And coding systems really have helped the world, right, in fixing problems and analyzing problems. Is the way that computers work. There's a lot of application for different codings. There's actually a great book, if you're interested, I'll put it up here. It's called the Crypto Club. And it's a great way, it's a great workbook that you can access pretty much anywhere on Amazon. And they have a lot of step-by-step coding systems, like basic step 1. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Caesar cipher. And essentially what the Caesar cipher does is that it translates one letter to the next. So you have a particular key, for example, 3, and you take that key and shift your alphabet in a direction that you want it to go, that particular number, okay? So for example, if you're looking at the screen, right, we have our plain alphabet that goes from A through Z, and then we're aligning our cipher so that A is now X, B is now Y, C is now Z. And so if you think about that and you think about the cipher or the alphabet as being sort of a circle, right? I would have shifted the entire alphabet 3 letters in order to be able where it is, right? So it has a left rotation of 3 places. and then it aligns all of the letters. So how do you decide the shift? That's up to you. So whoever's encrypting or making the code decides how far they want to go. And this is a very basic one-step cipher, but we have multi-step ciphers, right? Where you have different keys for different words so that the cipher can be harder to break. So here's an example, right? So when we're encrypting, the person looks up each letter of the message in the plain line text, so in the alphabet. And then you write down the corresponding letter that you want in the cipher line. So anytime you see cipher text, that's the code, and the plain text is what you would actually say in your native language. In our case, it would be English. So if our plain text reads, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," right? And we want to encrypt that, then we want to go to the cipher, which is below, and we want to align that. So if you notice, this is THE. So I would go to T on my plain text and then align that to the cipher that belongs to a Q. I would go to H that belongs to an E, and I go to an E and that belongs to a B. And so notice that THE in your coding system is actually QEB. And we can do that for the entire phrase or the line that we're trying to code. Now, deciphering is the opposite, right? It's almost undoing whatever someone has coded, which absolutely makes sense. To me, this is the fun part. The fun part is getting some jumbo letters that you have no idea about and being able to discover some great message or some note that you want no one to see. And so if I did a cipher where I shifted left, right? I shifted left 3. You want to think of left as like a -3, right? And so in order to decipher the message, I have to do the opposite operation. So I would go to the right 3, right? I would have to go in the opposite way so that I can align it. And that way you can decipher what it is. So again, when you're talking about one substitution ciphers, it's just one key that you need. And if you know what the person did, then you're able to undo it by using the inverse operation. So it works very much like algebra. Now, aligning letters is fun, but we want to translate that into numbers, right? And so we have a way of doing that by coding our letters through numbers. So we take the alphabet and we assign 0 to A and 25 to Z, right? So we go from 0 to 25. Now here's where we introduce the idea of mods. So a mod system is a system that essentially looks like a clock, right? So if you think of a clock, right? We know in the clock, even though there are 24 hours in a day, it only goes up to 12, right? And then it repeats. And so every single time that it repeats, you align that value to its new number. So for example, military time, you might have 1300, right? Or 13th hour, but that really is the same thing as 1 p.m., right? So it works on a mod 12 system. For our letters, because we have 26 letters, we work on a mod 26 system. And what that basically means is you're keeping track of the remainder. So here, when you're encrypting a letter, you're going to take your value, add n, which is the actual shift, and then you're taking it mod 26. So when it says mod 26, in your head, think I'm dividing by 26, but the answer is not going to be what you normally have as the dividend. Is going to, or your quotient is literally going to be your remainder. So in mod systems, you keep track of the remainder And notice that the encryption is the decryption, excuse me, is the opposite, right? So I take the value, I subtract my key, right? And then I do it mod 26. So when you're going back and forth, just make sure that you are sort of aligning what this is. and that you are keeping track of what that is. So sometimes the best way to think about the remainder is to take what you would call a mixed number, or what you would call an improper fraction, into a mixed number. And you know your numerator of that mixed number will always be your remainder. And so if you just keep track of that numerator, it will align. So you do this throughout the message, and then that message is able to translate. And we're going to do some fun examples that can help you to really understand. Okay, so you should have your piece of paper. If you have your piece of paper, press like, let us know that you're ready. And we're going to go ahead and actually practice some of the Caesar ciphers. Okay, so we have a message: keep this secret. Keep this secret. So we'll start with just the basic coding using letter to letter. And when we use that, we need to go in our plain text, look for the letter K. So I'm going in my plain text, look for the letter K, and then look at what value or what letter is corresponding to K. So if you look at K, there is an N that corresponds to that. And then when you go to E, there is an H that corresponds to that. And so we're going to use this system to be able to understand how to code each of the ones that you have there. So I'll give you about 30 seconds for you to go ahead and encrypt, keep this secret. Now notice that this Caesar cipher is a shift of 3. So if you got the encryption, please go ahead and put it in the comments. Let us know what your encryption is. We want to see if you got it. Hopefully you were able to get the answer. And then that way we can see what kind of answers we're getting. And then you'll see on 1B that we want to know what is your teacher's name, but go ahead and code it for us, right? So this is a great way for you to practice and maybe go back to school and say, hey, I learned something new. Let me tell you how you can now spell your name. Now, in decrypting, the same thing is true. And I told you guys that decrypting is my favorite, right? Because I really want to know what is that ciphertext that is there, right? So there's a riddle, and I'm asking you, do you know what you call a sleeping bull? Do you know what we call a sleeping bull? So what I want you to do is using that same cipher, right? The same cipher to decrypt the text that we have there. Okay, so here's the decryption there. Remember, our key is 3. So we are doing a shift of 3. And let's see who can get it first. I want to see who's going to be the first one who can put in the comments below what they decrypted our riddle to be. What do you call a sleeping bull? Alyssa, it looks like you got it right. Awesome. Yes, a bulldozer. That's right. So next time you're in your math class, this is the way that you need to go and teach the riddles in the class. You got to teach the coding. So take the cipher, make it more complex and exciting. I think it'll be a great way to show something new. So good job, Alyssa. I'm excited that you got it. And so we talked about the shift between letters and numbers. So now I want us to practice, how do we do it through just numbers, right? We're going to take it one step forward to practice that. And so the way that you want to do it is you want to create a coding system between the alphabet and the 0 to 25. So on your piece of paper right now, go ahead and write A through Z if you haven't done it already. Or if you have it, then you can just put it above, okay? And then right below or right above it, you're gonna put the numbers 0 through 25. 0 through 25. So you're going to align each of them. Okay, you're going to align each of them. So the system works almost the same. So the way that you want to think about this is through a numerical value. So we're going to actually do the decryption first. And the way you'll see is that there's going to be a ciphertext that's given to you in numbers. You're going to convert that into plain text, given the coding that you have to see exactly what it is. And the one thing that you have to remember is that if after you make a shift, you have a number that is greater than 25 or less than 0, you have to do mod 26, because the only values that you will ever have assigned to a letter are from 0 to 25. Okay, so if you're getting into that place and you may or may not do it in this particular one, make sure that you are remembering is always mod 26. By the way, a second way that you can align your numbers is by making a circle, right? Imitating a clock will also do that. And there are really simple cipher wheels that you can make that can help you make these shifts. So let's see if we can get, what kind of cookies do birds like? What kind of cookies do birds like? So you should be able to take the ciphertext, which is now numbers, and then translate it into our plain text. Our plain text would be the letters that are assigned to each of those values. Catherine, great job. That's awesome. Looks like you got it. So as you keep on practicing, make sure that you are creating systems that work for you. So if you want to do it line up in a horizontal way, wonderful. If you want to create your alphabet vertically, awesome. If you want to do the wheels so that you're able to shift regardless of what the key is, great as well. By the way, boys, right now we have 2 girls who have been our winners. So I'm hoping that you guys that I have a boy that wins next time, because the girls are kicking butt right now. Okay, good job, girls. Good job. All right, so we're gonna step it up and see how you guys do when we add a little extra. So I am now going to give you something that has already had a shift. Okay, so we're again decrypting messages and we're trying to figure out what they actually said. This time it's not a direct message that you're doing. There's a shift that's involved. So notice in the parentheses, I am telling you what your key is. Okay, so it was encrypted by adding 5. You got to figure out how to decrypt it. And never forget mod 26, okay? Mod 26. So boys, let's see. Can I get a boy to answer this first? What do you call a monkey who loves to eat potato chips? Alyssa, you are on a roll. You are on a roll. You were able to get this chipmunk. Good stuff. This looks awesome. So I am so glad that you guys are participating, and I really want to encourage you to continue to pursue it. If you like coding, or this was just slightly fascinating to you, please, please, please make sure that you continue to pursue it, that you ask your teachers where you can get more resources, or also feel free to directly contact me. My email is Duhon, DUHON .Andrea, ANDREA @gmail.com. And I would be more than happy to show you more strategies and to help you continue on your encrypting. We're going to do one more. And this is because, you know, as a college professor, I have students that want to talk all the time. And they like to pass notes back and forth. And you see, whenever I teach them coding, I always have to be careful that they're not telling stuff behind my back about a test. So how do I do that? Maybe I need some help. Now, there's this one boy who continues to pass notes. And I don't know what it's about, but I know that he gets really shy around this one particular girl. So can you guys help me to find out what was this note that was being sent? If you have questions about how to do this, please go ahead and write your questions on the chat and we will definitely answer them. And this is a challenge because I did not give you the key. But what I want you to think about is, in the English language, what possibilities do I have for a one-letter word? What possibilities do I have for a one-letter word? You guys are so smart, so bright, so I know you got this. Boys, I'm waiting for one of you to be that #1 spot because the girls have been killing it today. So let's see who can get this message. Okay, guys, looks like we are out of time. So until then, since no one was able to reveal it to us, make sure that you email me at duhon.andrea@gmail.com to find out what was that big reveal. Oh no, wait a minute. It looks like we got someone. Ruby, woo! Good job. Good job, good job. Indeed, we have a message about a girl. Can you believe it? College students talking about girls in code. I like Evie. Please don't tell her I said so. I think I'm going to tell Evie that there's a boy that likes her in my class. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this small coding presentation. If you have any questions, please, please, please put it on the chat below. Send me an email. I love to interact with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Duhon. The floor is now open to any questions you may have for Dr. Duhon and her work. Please type out your questions in the live stream chat or at us on our Instagram accounts and other social media. We will try to get to as many questions as we can.
All right, Dr. Duhon, your first question is, do you have any tips for teens who are now deciding what to study in college?
Yes, absolutely. I think you need to find your passion and decide what is it that you want to know about. Remember, you are going to be paying for college or have a scholarship. Someone is paying for your education. So it has to be worth the time. If you are unsure, if you're just literally unsure of what to do, there are a lot of colleges that have either first year college or general studies where you can explore all types of options until you really see what it is that you want to do. Some students go in knowing exactly what they want to study about and others don't. And there's many that change along the way. So you don't have to know right away.
All right, thank you for that. Next we have, was there ever a moment where you thought that maybe mathematics was not the right path for you?
Absolutely. So at NC State, there is your first proofs class, Math 225. And in my first test, I got a 25%. So in that moment, I 100% believed that I needed to choose a different path, right? However, I was slightly encouraged by the fact that the average was 19%. So I wasn't that far off of where the thing, but nonetheless, I felt like I didn't know enough and I didn't feel equipped. And like I said in my presentation, I had created a village that was willing to support me. Because to be honest, I was a little cocky by then about my math. And I thought that math was easy. I had done so many courses, I had taken so many maths, so I felt like I was going to achieve. So getting a 25 felt it was hard to take. My heart was hurting. And so I really needed somebody to tell me that it was just a stepping stone to where I wanted to go. So there's definitely going to be places. The other time, to be honest with you, when I was about to defend my dissertation for my doctorate degree, it was very terrifying. I didn't feel prepared, didn't feel equipped. And remember, when you get a PhD, your grades don't matter. There were a lot of people who had straight A's and never got a PhD because it's all about you being able to take everything that you learned over the last 12, 13 years and putting it together in a dissertation and saying, this is how it's connected. And so, you know, that moment right there, you're trying to say, did I learn enough? Do I know enough? And I remember being on a phone call with my mentor, Dr. Wanda Hill, who was my mentor freshman year in college. And 12 years later, she was on the phone letting me know, you can do this. You know this stuff. And so you got to believe in yourself, but those moments will be there. It's not if they will be there. I guarantee you they'll be there. So you got to be prepared for them.
Next we have, what do you think is the most famous cipher of all time and what made it so special?
Oh man, most famous. That's hard. I don't know if there's a most famous, but I would say the RSA was the most common. Let me backtrack at that time. So now we're racing against computers, right? The computer system you're looking at is probably a little faster than math than I am, slightly, just a little tiny bit. And so they have all types of coding systems, right? When you look at a binary system, you are able to identify codes all over the place. But the RSA was the most popular, I would say, when coding systems started to come about. And if you remember what World War II, why did it happen? Right? If you think about the reasons of World War II, someone intercepted a message. They found out that some stuff was going to go down, how Mexico was involved. There's all this stuff that happened. We intercept this message, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have a world war. So it's pretty important things, right? But those are systems that are obviously a lot more advanced.
All right. And on a similar note, who's your favorite mathematician of all time?
No. Favorite mathematician of all time. Wow, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. So it's interesting as to why, but I think, I don't know that he's my favorite, but I do really like Euclid. And the reason why, I think geometry is fascinating, right? But I like Euclid more for it being so wrong than for it being right. So if you know anything about geometry, what you should know is that it was based on a premise of having a flat surface for Earth, right? So when we thought that the Earth was flat, we assumed, okay, if this is the way everything relates, let's create a geometry around that. Well, we obviously know that's not the case. And so I like Euclid because of him being wrong, we're able to explore other geometries, right? Because of that not being true, you can talk about mathematics in a way that students are stumped, and you can talk about relationships that only exist under a specific premise. And so I think it gives conversation, and it allows you to see math in such a unique way.
Okay. And did you always want to teach math, or were you interested in applying math, like in an engineering or financial region or way?
Yeah. So it's kind of both. So I did always have this thought in my head that I wanted to teach math, but I wanted to explore it in different ways as well. And that's actually why being a professor is great. If you have an opportunity to do it at this level, I encourage it, because you can teach math, you can interact with students, you can have that passion sort of transfer to the next generation, but side by side, you can use your research as a way to connect to the industry. Right. And so I have a lot of colleagues who work directly with companies and do the modeling for them. I have a colleague that works through American Express and analyzes all of the financial models. Simultaneously, they're teaching mathematics, right? Myself, I get to work with the solar energy company, do their financial modeling, do their predictions, make sure that everything is aligning, but I get to work with students as well. And the best way to do that is to bridge the two. Decide what you want to know, find a place that it fits well, and then pair up with a company that needs a mathematician. Almost every company that you can think about, and I would dare to say all, but I don't like to make blanket statements, so I'm going to say almost all, need a mathematician on their team, right? Someone who's able to critically think through their problem solving and help them to maximize optimization, a calculus concept, whatever it is that they're doing, right? So you want to be able to find that passion. And I can tell you what, I'm young still. I'm only 37 years young. And I can tell you that there is a specific type of analytics that is currently happening in sports, right? If you look at sports and basketball and the trends that are happening, analytics in sports is a big thing. And that's one of the things I want to do before my life is over in math. Like, I want to be able to pair up with a team and do the analytics to see how the shot works, how things interact, how it involves the sports, how you can project and predict how a team is going to do based on what they've done. Those are things that you can do alongside teaching, and they help you in the classroom because experience helps students to create passion.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Duhon, for all the answers. Unfortunately, we are out of time for questions, and now I'm going to pass it on to Disha to conclude.
Thank you again, Dr. Duhon, and thank you all for coming. We would all like to thank the wonderful cafe staff for allowing us to use this space. Don't forget to follow Teen Science Cafe and mention us on Twitter, Facebook, and tag us on Instagram. Also, keep an eye out for a follow-up email containing a survey, or go to tinyurl.com/teenscisurvey2. Once you complete the survey, you will receive a discount code for the museum store.
Be sure to come in for our next month's cafe on November 6th with Dr. Ryan Emanuel to learn about Indigenous sciences and how it can be used to inform strategies of environmental management. Thank you so much for joining today's Teen Science Cafe. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to make sure you never miss more premium content from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. These have been your cafe coordinators. Stay safe this October and have a spoopy Halloween.